Finally, a movie that shows how tiring it would actually be to be battling in full metal armor in the mud. The King is on Netflix, and it tells the story of how Hal becomes King Henry V. It's political, it's medieval, but is it good? Young King Henry V has to counter foes within and outside of his castle walls, because he's striving to unite his kingdom under one crown. Timothée Chalamet stars as Hal, who becomes King Henry V after his father dies. Personally, I'm not on the Timothée Chalamet bandwagon. I mean, I don't just fawn over anything that he happens to be in. I really enjoyed him in Beautiful Boy, but I feel that he's still got to earn it with me. So it's not just like, ooh, he's in it, yes, I'm there. No, I'm going to give it a shot and see how you do. In The King, though, he does an amazing job. I mean, he's really good. He's very convincing, especially as the reluctant boy, or young man, really. I mean, he's not a boy. He's a young man who has the kingship, is that right? I don't know. It's put upon him. He didn't search it out. He didn't want it. And yet now he finds himself as king. And because of that, he desperately wants to do things differently than his father did. I like how quiet he is. He's a thinker. He's contemplative. He doesn't just rush into things. He listens to counsel, sits there and doesn't speak a lot. And so in his performance, Chalamet's performance, he has to just be emotive, but he has to be like subdued also, because he can't just, he's not this rash person and he's not portraying that. And so I really liked how he's grounded, how he's quiet, how he's thinking, how he's like listening to everything, weighing all of the outcomes, so then he can make the right decision. Joel Edgerton stars also as Hal's friend, and he is like this knight who has seen a lot of battle. He's much older than Hal is, but they're friends, and they were friends before Hal became king. And so now Joel Edgerton's character is called upon to be kind of an advisor, because he's the one person that Hal, now Henry V, can really depend on, not only to tell him the truth, but to not be scheming behind his back, because he doesn't know who he can trust in his court. They all have differing goals and objectives, and they may not all be for him or even for the best for him. I like Sean Harris in this also. I mean, he's one of those that are in the king's court, and you don't know who he's really for. I mean, at some points, it looks like maybe he's out for himself. Other times, though, all of the evidence points that he is a true supporter of the king. And so I just enjoyed that little bit of unknown that comes to the story. His performance is great. He's doing something weird with his arm on his side, and I don't know exactly what that is. I don't know if he has a pain going on like his character does, not him as an actor. But it was just, I didn't know. He was consistent in it, so I appreciated that, but I didn't know what it was going for. A surprise to me in this, and I didn't know he was in it, was Robert Pattinson. Maybe you knew that already, but he is the Prince of France, the Dauphin of France. Is that how you say it? Dolphin without an L? I don't know. I'm not French. Hopefully my friends in France can correct me on the correct pronunciation. But also while you're correcting that, the one thing that I thought was a little wonky with Pattinson's performance was his accent. It seemed a little forced, a little fake. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's spot on. I don't know. Otherwise, I liked him. He was kind of over the top in certain ways, and so I appreciated that, because he brought this flair of arrogance that came to his character, and it was fun. The cinematography in The King is beautiful. I mean, it truly is. You have these wide, expansive shots that show the grandeur of everything around, whether it's a battlefield or just the countryside or whatever that happens to be. But then they also contrast that with some very close, intimate shots. And so it just, in every aspect of it, I really liked it, because it wasn't all of the same. And it was a pleasure to look at visually. When you watch a film, sometimes you're just paying attention to what's going on, and it doesn't always just grab you by how it looks. This is one of those that at least grabbed me. Now, it's not at the very top of the list, but it was good. I mean, I enjoyed what I was seeing on screen. Now, one thing that I really, really appreciate in this, and I don't think I've ever seen it in any other type of medieval film, is the way that they film the battle scenes and how tired the actors at this, the combatants, that's the better word, combatants actually got. they're carrying all of this armor and chainmail and then these really heavy swords or weapons, and some of them have shields or whatever. And, after a few minutes of that, you gotta get a little winded, right? I mean, I think back to a lot of movies that I've seen, and while they may be a tiny bit tired, they're walking around like it's no big deal. Like it's not this giant weight on them that they can barely stand up. And in The King, the battle scenes, you see them winded. I mean, it takes a toll on them, and I love that. And it's not like after the really long battle that all of a sudden they're like, no. It's only after a couple of minutes of struggling in the mud and just fighting each other, and you're bumping off of everybody, and then I don't know how you tell one from the other, who's on your side and who's not, when you're all wearing metal, and then at some points you're covered in mud, so it's even harder to tell. But I loved the realism that brought, because I truly believe that no matter how good of shape you may be in, when you're wearing all of that weight of chainmail and metal armor and then carrying a big old sword or a battle axe or whatever that happens to be, and you start swinging that around a bunch, you're going to be puking because you just don't feel good and you're winded. I didn't feel the time in this movie at all. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes, and I was sucked into the story, the performances, everything. I mean, and it actually surprised me because I knew how long it was going in, and I thought, oh gosh, I hope this is good, because that could be a really long time if the story is not compelling. And it did move along. I didn't feel it drag in any spot, that it grabbed hold of me. I found it really interesting. I don't know how historically accurate it is, but I didn't care. I wasn't watching it as a documentary. I was watching it to be entertained, and it did. It grabbed hold of me, and I just kept wanting to see more and more. And all of the while being driven forward by Chalamet's performance. He blew me out of the water. I mean, he was really good in this. So I really think this is one of those Netflix films that you should add to your list or check out right away. Either way, you're not going to go wrong. There is brief sex and brief nudity. There is some profanity, and then there's a whole lot of brutal violence. I give The King on Netflix 4.5 out of 5 couches. So what's your favorite medieval based movie? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for catching with me.